Since our last dispatch from the field, we've seen our planet change a little bit. The effects of the virus have impacted all corners of the world, and we're not exempt here in Zimbabwe. So prior to the lockdown that we're currently experiencing here, we did a trip to the field specifically to spend time in the communities that are peripheral to the protected areas of the Zambezi landscape that Zeph is involved in. And we went up there specifically to have a look at two interventions that are underway to tackle a big conservation conundrum that we face, not just us, but a lot of areas throughout Africa. And this conservation conundrum, this challenge, is that of deforestation, and deforestation driven through the demands of fuel, wood fuel. So we went to have a look at the interventions around the supply of alternative fuels to wood fuel, and an intervention specifically designed to tackle the restoration of lost habitats. Now, these are habitats that we've seen eroded over the last several years, and these are important habitats for the health of the whole landscape. So let's have a closer look at the area we're talking about and what is happening on the ground. So we've got the protected areas of the Zambezi landscape, those areas that are effectively Zeph's core operational zone. And let's look at the southern boundary of these areas. And what is the problem here? Well, the problem is habitat loss. And it's habitat loss driven by a few key things that have happened over the last decade or so to really accelerate deforestation of natural woodland. And let's remind ourselves of the importance of these natural woodland wilderness areas along the southern boundary. Clearly, the iconic areas of the Zambezi landscape are those most visited by tourists, and the beautiful areas that we all know well along the Zambezi River itself are well understood. The wilderness areas are less well understood and comprise the vast majority of the landscape. And these are huge, expansive areas of deciduous woodland, which provide an essential resource for wildlife, especially during the rainy months, where there's more water available throughout these wilderness landscapes. And the wildlife can therefore migrate away from the more concentrated zones closer to the Zambezi River itself and disperse throughout the landscape for a number of months. And this process of dispersal is absolutely key to maintaining the integrity, the ecological integrity of the Zambezi Valley itself. If the wildlife does not have the option to travel into the wilderness areas, then they will be concentrated within the valley itself, and that will lead to all sorts of overpopulation scenarios and stress on the environment. The health, therefore, of the iconic areas of the landscape are to some extent absolutely linked to the health of the wilderness areas. And if we continue to lose habitat, as we've seen over the last years, then the wildlife within the entire area is jeopardized. If we look at the satellite imagery over the last 20 years, you'll see the first image from 2000. Compare that with the second one 20 years later, and you'll see the areas in yellow have expanded significantly, illustrating habitat loss driven by agriculture. Now, one of the specific problems that we have that is driving deforestation in these communities is tobacco production and the requirement of huge amounts of wood fuel for the curing process within barns that local farmers construct. So one solution to this problem of fuel need at an agricultural level is being developed by a private sector agricultural business, Rift Valley Corporation, who are manufacturing sawdust briquettes from waste produced by the sawmills in the eastern highlands of Zimbabwe. And these briquettes are compressed, transported to the north of the country, where they're distributed to tobacco growers. And these sawdust briquettes burn exceptionally well within the tobacco barns and will be made available this year for the first time. So we have high hopes that with the introduction of this type of fuel, a completely sustainable green fuel, if you like, we might see the development of the supply as a key response to the fuel need to alleviate pressure on natural woodland in future. So we've looked at a possible solution to help the fuel needs of communities growing tobacco, but now I want to tell you about a solution to restore the trees that have already been lost. And the same agricultural business providing sawdust briquettes for fuel, Rift Valley, is also in partnership with one of ZEF's key partners, the Zambezi Society, in a project known as My Trees. Now, this is a really interesting community-based tree planting initiative that aims to restore woodland habitat and also plant woodlots as a community wood fuel resource for the future. And the trees planted are all fast-growing, indigenous species, local to the area. And the project began close to the Mana Pools boundary and those communities along the southern boundary, and has ambitions to expand throughout the area where we've seen the most rapid rates of deforestation. So today we are with the My Trees project, Miti Yangu in Shona, My Trees. And this is an extraordinary project that has been going for a short while, but has extraordinary ambition for the communities on the periphery of the protected wildlife areas to restore lost woodland, natural woodland, through tree planting at scale. And this season we've seen the establishment of our first nurseries, and Doubt is one of the nursery managers, and this is his nursery that he's put together. And you'll just see it's wonderful. We've got several varieties of indigenous trees that are being planted out during the rainy season throughout these communities. This project, apart from planting trees and restoring ecosystems, providing wood fuel, is designed to employ people, and employ people at scale. Our ambition is to employ hundreds, if not thousands of people through this area and change the whole economy of these local communities. So today we've been spending time in the communities here and having a really good look at how the My Trees project is coming along. So far we've planted 60 hectares, which is our first pilot year. In this particular area, which belongs to a school, we've planted 1,200 trees, 3 hectares, and that's typically what we're seeing, small size areas where either schools or local villages will put some land aside for the project. What we want to do next season is grow quite considerably, and our ambitious targets are 250 up to 500 hectares next year, and then in our third year of planting 1,000 hectares, which is really our goal. Our first goal to reach scale will be 1,000 hectares every year. So we hope to see many more little plantations like this with indigenous trees growing throughout this community.